Welcome to the Worst Sports Channel on YouTube with me, Coach Ryan D. Okay, we got a hot one today. We got two takes. We got a legit coach's take right now about what is going on with the Jets, with the matchup between them and the Oilers and them and the Leafs and the Leafs and the Oilers. We got some three-way RPS action going on between these three clubs.
I'm made of rocks, as you can see, but don't let that intimidate you. You don't need to be afraid unless you're made of scissors. Just a little rock, paper, scissors joke for you.
And then we're going to put on our tinfoil hats. We're going to do our own research. We're not going to trust what the narrative is telling us. And we're going to talk about this cluster that is the locker room called the Winnipeg Jets. So stick with us till the end. If you want the legit hockey analysis, it's in the first 5 minutes. If you want to go down Green Street with me, it's in the back half. Let's get at it. Roll the intro.
Here's Lemieux. The center penalty coming up. Look at Lemieux. Oh, my goodness. What a goal. Oh, baby.
Okay, so I've been around hockey for a long time. I've coached, I've been in locker rooms, I've been with scouts. I can tell when something is off, and something right now with the Jets, it's very off. Things aren't right in Jets land. But first, let's talk about some strategy and real hockey. The Edmonton Oilers. What is going on with the Edmonton Oilers and why are they destroying the Winnipeg Jets? It's pretty simple. It's McDavid and Draisaitl. It's that simple. They have opened up this game. And what do I mean by that? I can't just cop out and say, it's McDavid and Draisaitl. We know it's McDavid and Draisaitl. McDavid and Draisaitl are doing something to the Jets that hasn't been seen since the 80s when Gretzky did it to us. There's a lot of people out there that say, McDavid and Draisaitl, if they're not in the lineup, there's no depth. Okay, well, they're in the lineup. So what are they doing? What Connor McDavid specifically is doing to teams is he is forcing teams to play the Edmonton Oilers game because you are so worried about matching up against Connor McDavid. What ends up happening is McDavid is making everybody around him that much better and elevating them from here to here, as you'd see on Letterkenny.
Saying is, we're at this level, but we got to get to this level.
When you put out your checking line against Connor McDavid and you line match against Connor McDavid, you are taking your checkers away from their job. In the NHL, you normally play line 1 on line 1, 20 to 22 minutes a game. Line 2 on line 2, 18 to 20 minutes. Line 3 comes in somewhere into teens and line 4 is just there to mix it in, have a little bit of spice and not cause any goals or give some development for 4 players. But the Jets are changing their lines and their rotation to try to combat Connor McDavid, and this is a problem. And line matching isn't a problem. It's happened in the NHL at every level of hockey for years. It's the hallmark of a great coach, and it's the hardest thing you can do as a coach. Trust me, I get it. But Connor McDavid is really a special case, just like Gretzky. There are very few checkers that can handle this man regardless. So trying to create an entire system around this man ends up blowing up your system. That's what I'm saying. Don't think I am saying that line matching doesn't work. It works against 30 of 31 teams. It doesn't work against the Oilers, in my opinion. When the Oilers put McDavid out, just watch. They'll put him out for 15 seconds just to screw with the Jets. They'll catch the Jets on a line change. McDavid will come off the ice. They'll send their third line out there. We will end up in a bad matchup because guess who's coming right back out? Connor McDavid. And then he is not going to be playing against the checkers. When you are the home team, you get the final change. However, you're only the home team half the time, so you have to find a way to play your normal game. He's trapping the checkers. He's messing up the lines, and we aren't able to use our depth properly to be able to beat the Oilers. And then what happens is we get caught on the rush because we either have the wrong personnel out or, as Matthew Perreault said this week, we're making cute plays. And Matthew Perreault also said we have to keep our shifts short. Does that tell you something, Mark? Oh, this channel has gone down a hill. Now I'm taking quotes from Perreault. And we end up torched. He's also making Mike Smith look really good. Oilers fans, you have sent me this comment. I get Mike Smith is hot right now, but let me tell you something. Mike Smith sucks. He's not a good goaltender. Guy's dust. He's hot right now, just like Grant Fuhr was hot in the 80s for you, because Connor McDavid's taking the pressure off him. If you get to go in the net all shoulder swaggy and feel great about it because you know if you let in 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4, McJesus is going to bail you out and score 5. You get to go in there with confidence, 110%, confidence level 20 out of 10. And that is Mike Smith right now. He has no fear. If he lets a bad one in, McDavid and Draisaitl will fix the problem for him. And then it compounds. He ends up being a little more confident because he's also not getting the proper shots against because the Jets are so worried about McDavid, and the whole game blows up. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not the second half of the video. This is legitimate hockey analysis. Connor McDavid is blowing up the line matching for the Winnipeg Jets, and there is one simple way to fix it. it. And you need two defensemen together. Hi, Pionk and Maurice, get together. Please make a line. And you need to get them out there for 32 minutes, pretty much every second shift if you want to beat the Oilers. Not ideal to do in a regular season game against the Oilers, but that's the way you're going to have to beat them.
I mean, we all know Tucker Pullman isn't going to do it.
Then when your guys like Forbert or DeMello get trapped, you have to find a way to get them off the ice as quick as possible and throw those guys out there as well. Trust me, these guys are horses. Defensemen can last longer than forwards. It is harder on McDavid to play 30 minutes than it is Morrissey Pionk, and that is all I have to say about the Oilers. Okay, Ryan, but why are the Leafs beating them? Because Sheldon Keefe is rolling his lines. The Leafs have a deep team. It's not as deep as the Jets. It isn't. They have a very good top four, but the Leafs still have a deep forward group. Their first two lines, excellent. Their third line, B+. Their fourth line, I don't even know if Sheldon Keefe knows if he has a fourth line. He keeps changing them. But those two lines that the Leafs are able to run, a little bit of salt and pepper here with the third line. They play their game. They outscore the Oilers. Here we go, first place team in the division. All right, so why do the Jets do good against the Leafs? Why do I like this matchup? Because the Jets don't play to the Leafs structure. The Jets play their own game against the Leafs. They roll line 1, line 2, and then guess what? When our line 3, which is better than anyone else's line 3 in the North Division, gets out there, they score. That's why Appleton gets open and puts in points. That's why Kopp looks good. That's why Perreault looks good on the third line. Our third line depth is better than anybody else's, and when line 1, Auston Matthews plays line 1, Mark Scheifele, it's a neutral game. One will score one way, one will score the other way, but they cancel each other out. When John Tavares and Willie Nylander play against Dubois and Wheeler, cancels each other out. Both are very good lines. Sometimes they're going to score, sometimes we're going to score. But I promise you, when our third line goes out, we are going to beat them. So the Jets play their game against the Leafs. Oh, and by the way, Leafs, you got shoddy goaltending. Sorry, but that aside, their line matchups make sense. This is what is going on in the North, and this is what is being ramped up for in the playoffs. So why do we want to go down the tinfoil hat? Well, pretty simple. Paul Maurice, I've been defending you for a very long time, but you are really starting to look like you're on the hot seat and maybe not the guy to get us over the hump. Okay, Jets fans, only stick with me here if you want to go down a little bit of a path. Okay, so Maurice is in a pretty tough spot here. I think there's a dispute going on between the coaching staff and the front office, a la Maurice and Chevy. I think there's a dispute going on between Maurice and his players. And I think there's a dispute going on in the locker room, and you can see it when you read between the lines with what hockey players are saying. We all got to remember, the reason hockey players are so boring in interviews and absolutely catch no media attention is because they always say the right thing. So you got to read a little bit in between, and you have to have some experience in these locker rooms to really understand what they're saying. Hockey locker rooms have had a challenge since these guys were young of not being historically a great place. There's a lot of chirping back and forth going on, and frankly, just sit in the corner trying to be cool so you don't get picked on. And it does carry over into the pros sometimes. I'm not saying that's happening here, just saying don't think because they're pros that they are above acting like children. First off, we all know that Chevy publicly said he was hoping Heinola would get a little bit of ice time. Shovel Dayoff, as my brother has pointed out to me, being a huge Blackhawks fan, was the assistant GM to that Hawks dynasty. And what did that Hawks dynasty do? Only feed the NHL with player after player after player once they left the Hawks team, because they were excellent at developing their young talent, getting them through their entry-level contract or cheap veteran-level contract, dumping them and reloading. Don't believe me? How about Nick Leddy? How about Hjalmarsson? Let's go ahead and talk about the mediocre superstar Chris Versteeg. Andrew Ladd, anybody? Dustin Byfuglien, Panarin, Saad. It goes on forever. He wasn't afraid to retool. The reason he could retool, though, in Chicago was because they played their young guys at the beginning of the year and got them the valuable experience that they need. And Maurice hasn't done that. He has not played Stanley enough. He hasn't played Heinola enough. And now he is trapped with mediocre defensemen. He's done the same thing to Vesalainen. I don't know when Perfetti will get in the lineup. It's not Perfetti's year, but I don't know. I don't have any trust he'll get in next year. He makes guys wait far too long. And in today's game, you start getting dissent amongst your players and you start getting dissent amongst your front office. So I do think there is a battle going on between Maurice and Chevy. Maurice is an excellent coach when it comes to veterans. This team now needs to transition into helping develop their rookies to retool. And we've seen it with 3 years of lackluster success since we made our conference final run against Vegas, which was amazing. And by the way, heavy veteran team. So the locker room. Things aren't good when your alternate and your captain are talking about ice time. And things really aren't good when a guy like Mark Scheifele is saying, I don't agree with the benching. And then you have a depth player like Matthew Perreault come out and say, we have to keep shifts between 30 and 35 seconds. I guess the coach is telling the locker room you should keep your shifts between 30 and 35 seconds. His alternate doesn't, his best player doesn't, and then he publicly goes into the media and says he disagrees with it because he's trying to win the game. Guys, tinfoil hat here. Mark's been pouty for the last 2-3 years. I love Scheifele, but this guy has lost a little bit of his edge when it came to Mr. Outwork everybody, Mr. Humility, Mr. I'm going to lead by example. I don't know if he's starting to get a little bit chippy around the edges. I don't know if he's starting to feel a little bit of envy to Connor McDavid and Auston Matthews getting media attention. I'm not sure, but he seems to be, in my opinion, based on his body language on the ice and certain things he's saying in his interviews, especially with the fact that he only seems to want to play with Blake Wheeler, he seems to be getting cliquey and starting to kind of prima donna demand things. That's not the way it goes. An elite player who played in junior B at 15 and climbed his way up through every rank in hockey and did everything the right way, if he stays out for a minute 40 seconds, he tells the coach, you're right, I screwed up, bench me. I'm a leader on this team. Won't do it again, big guy. That's what he does. But he didn't do that. And if you don't think that third line players equally want to contribute to the game, get their ice time, and put in a winning goal as much as Scheifele does, and I'm sorry, you've never been in a locker room or you've never been a third line player. I have. Dust. He wanted to be the guy leading and winning for the team. I get it, but little egocentrical because you have good players around you that should also be able to score. That's what a good leader does. You don't believe me? Look at John Tavares over at the Toronto Maple Leafs. John Tavares absolutely took a backseat to Auston Matthews, had no problem with it. Go ahead, coach, put me on the second line. Go ahead, coach, give me Willie Nylander. I don't need Mitch Marner. Go ahead, coach, put Matthews up in this spot. He has succeeded his role to Auston Matthews for the betterment of the team, but he's still good and effective. Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler, I don't know if they're doing that. And I'm going to pick on Blake now. Blake, I don't know if you're a first line guy anymore. You're incredible, but I think you match up better with Dubois and Stasny on the second line. You're the same speed. You should be telling Mark, it's been fun playing with you for the last 5 years, but Mark, it's time you become the leader because you're the future captain of this team. Take that young kid, Nick Ehlers, take the young Kyle Connor, teach them what I taught you, step them up to your next level so we can go win a cup. That's what we should be looking at. And if you don't think that players get a say in who their line mates are, or the coach doesn't ask them who their line mates are, they don't pressure the coach on who they should play with, especially at the $1 million NHL level, then you're wrong. Or your coach is John Tortorella, and we know how that goes. So to sum it up, there's probably 3 camps in this locker room right now, and we saw it with the Bufflin shenanigans last year. There's the leadership group with Scheifele and Wheeler, and there's probably a third of the players on their side. There's probably another third of the players, and I'm guessing they're probably further down the rung, that are kind of thinking like, yeah, they're not buying into this. And there's probably another third that can swing either way, and it's up to Maurice to be able to send a message and bring these guys together. I don't know if he has. And if you don't think that's not going on in a locker room, again, you've never been in a locker room. There's always dissent in a locker room. Tinfoil hat theory. Can't prove any of this. So if you agree with me, throw a comment down low. If you disagree with me, throw a comment down low. I respect everybody's opinion on it, unless you're a bandwagon Leafs fan. I mean, if you're a diehard Leafs fan, you're fine. But the bandwagoners, nah, I'll roast you every time. Okay, guys. So the Jets aren't buying in. We see locker room challenges, and we see the biggest, the scariest thing I can think of, Connor Hellebuyck. Connor Hellebuck's on a downward slide. Connor Hellebuyck, he was pulled fast in that game, and he let Maurice know it. And then what happens? Maurice leaves him in maybe too long when he was getting lit up again. When you start playing with these goalies, and if you're a goalie out there, you get this. You guys are, you got a couple bolts loose up there. Anybody remember Patrick Waugh last time a coach screwed with him? Didn't work out well for the organization. But that's the Habs for you. What more do you expect from them? I don't know if that's happening here, but I'm nervous about it. Okay, well, I did this before the Oilers game tonight. Let's hope the Oilers go ahead and go down to the Jets. The Jets get this right and we get on the playoff track again. I don't know if we will. I think there's a lot of problems going on at the 3 levels, but diehard Jets fans. So fingers crossed. Go Jets, go. Hope we can put it together. Bye, guys.